Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Jason, back at it again with another Geography Now video. Yes, guys, we're finally back to the Americas. In this episode, it is Suriname. Now, if you don't know a lot of Suriname, I can't speak today. If you don't know a lot about Suriname, the Gold Cup, they were like, I think they were the Netherlands, or maybe the English. Yeah, maybe the English. So, I don't know. So let's just get started with this video in 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, Suriname. So,
Suriname.
South America has everything you can imagine. It has everything from penguins to wrestling cholitas. But then you go up to the north and you find the 3 Guiana triplets. They are so hidden, secluded, and often forgotten. Basically,
I mean,
you take a ton of
they're in the
Asians,
CONCACAF region. What do you expect?
And after 400 years, they somehow end up speaking Dutch. And there's a ton
Okay,
of
so this one is the Netherlands. There's one for in English, so I'm assuming that one is Guiana.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barb. Get some Geography Now merch at geographynow.com. It's not selling out, it's your brand. So just a little disclaimer, I actually talked to many of you guys, the Surinamese geography peeps, and I was planning to visit Suriname for this episode, but literally all the flights were completely booked at the time of writing this script. All land borders were closed off to non-essential travelers. I even tried looking at like crossing the border from Guyana or like the Dutch Caribbean, like flying from Aruba. Nothing. In any case, the show must go on. I'm still going to feature some of you guys in this episode with sent-in video.
I feel like if he did, the episode would have been like put for another day. Not this week, it probably would have been the other last week.
How did that even happen countries?
No, it would have been next week or maybe the next 2 weeks.
First of all, Suriname is located in the northern section of the South American continent, bordered by Guyana to the west, Brazil to the south, and the overseas territory of French Guiana to the east. To the north lies the Atlantic Ocean. These three, in addition to the eastern part of Venezuela and the Amapa state of Brazil, are sometimes referred to as the Guianas: Spanish, English, Dutch, French, and Portuguese. The country is divided into 10 districts. Most are all concentrated along the coast, where most of the people live. And this big one, Sipaliwini, is just like, okay, whatever, we'll just cover all the rest of the unknown jungle stuff. It doesn't even have its own administrative capital like the others. Suriname also has 2 disputed areas in the south, with Guyana and French Guiana. The one with Guyana at the headwaters of the Corentyne River to the west, and with French Guiana, it lies on the headwaters of the Litani River to the east. If you don't include these disputed areas, it would make Suriname the smallest country in South America. The capital, Paramaribo, lies on the coast and holds about half of the entire country's population. Paramaribo is basically the hub where all roads connect to in the country. The furthest you can go inland on paved road would be the small town of Poquijon in the Suriname River on the Martin Luther King Highway. Otherwise, the JFK Highway is the longest one that traverses the inland areas all the way to the Corentyne River on the border with Guyana.
Names.
There are currently no bridges connecting them to Guyana or French Guiana, and all land vehicles wishing to cross must take ferries. Currently, there is also no road access to Brazil in the south. From there, most of the remaining communities inland are only accessible via boat transportation on various rivers that intertwine the complex, thick forests of the interior. The largest and busiest airport where most international travel arrives would be Johan Adolf Pengel International Airport, servicing Paramaribo, the capital of course, even though it's located about 28 miles or 45 kilometers south of Paramaribo. If you want to arrive more central to the city, you can take a plane from Guyana on Trans-Guyana Airways to the only other international airport, Sogonhoop International, which is right in the middle of the city, and it can only accommodate smaller aircrafts holding up to 20 passengers max. Otherwise, the country actually has over 50 smaller regional airports and airstrips, mostly unpaved airstrips across the country, the majority at about 3/4 of all airstrips being located in the difficult-to-access, mostly native communities of the Sipaliwini district,
Yeah,
the southernmost airstrip
we're
of
not
the country
going there.
being in the appropriately named community of
Oh
Silawipini.
Fun fact, Suriname is the only country in South America
So
that doesn't border a
diverse.
Spanish-speaking country. So anyway, getting around in Suriname is not the easiest task. Everything is either a road or a river, and they are considering building a rail line between Paramaribo and Onverwacht.
Onverwacht? That means unexpected?
Yep, they also have towns named Waterland and Boomjachtloos. The real funny thing is, how did Suriname even become a country? See, back in the 1600s something, the UK and Netherlands were pissed at each other, which led to the Second Dutch Anglo War. It was basically like,
Stop taking all the bloody trade routes, you greedy
no. Which led to the Treaty of Breda, which was like, okay, so we won. We're gonna take your rich, fertile sugar plantations in the Guiana belt and call it Dutch Guiana, and you can keep that small, whatever, cold, depressing New Amsterdam colony in the north. Whatever.
Oh no, whatever will I do with it?
In any case, Suriname has a lot of amazing sights
How
to see.
times have
Here's
changed.
Geography Sheldon from Suriname to explain.
Hi there, Fawaka. The top places to visit and see in Suriname are the historical inner city of Paramaribo. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The most famous places in this area are Barcelandia, a museum, and Suriname's first building, the Waterkant, and the Independence Square, or as we say in Dutch, het Onafhankelijkheidsplein, the Palmatuin or Palm Tree Garden, and the Wakapasi Boulevard. Located outside the historical part are the Central Market, the Reditex Art Gallery, and the different cultural markets, Old Dutch plantations. Far near Amsterdam, the Pepperpot Nature Park, we have the Biggie Pan Lake. The dark water creeks and white sand savannas are where we locals go to relax. Other top places in the jungle of Suriname are the Bronsberg Nature Park, the Volksberg, the Blanchimari Falls, and the many sulas or rapids where you can lay in and relax because they are usually located next to an eco resort.
Thank you, Sheldon. So much going on in Suriname, especially in the nature side. And they are literally the most carbon negative country on Earth. But that's for the next segment.
cool.
So let's move on.
Physical.
Yeah, Suriname is
Like
literally
physics.
the most forested country on Earth. Multiple
Hate
sources have
physics.
different numbers on the
I hate
exact
chemistry.
percentages, but
Oh, I hate
averaged them
chemistry
out to
too, bro.
somewhere above 95%.
Chemistry.
The highest estimate I got was actually
Why do you have math?
I mean, if you look at Suriname from above, it's literally almost entirely green. And we shall see it from above in the oceanographic.
Suriname is located in the Guiana Shield, a historically coveted region of South America, with not only some of the most fertile land, but some of the highest biodiversity in the world. The shield is known as a craton, one of the oldest and most stable sections of Earth's crust, unaffected by fault lines, as it is centrally located within the South American plate, which means, of course, they don't get any earthquakes or tsunamis. Whoop-de-doo. The further inland you go, within this shield, and specifically in Suriname, the land slightly rises to three main mountain chains, the Bakhaus Mountains, the Tumukumak Mountains, and the Wilhelmina in the center, where you can find the tallest peak, Juliana Top, at about 1,200 meters high. From these highlands, the longest river fully within the country, the Suriname River, flows north to the Atlantic, but not before flowing into the largest inland body of water that takes up about 1% of the entire country's landmass, the Brocopondo Reservoir. This reservoir was a byproduct of the Afobaka Dam on the north side, the largest in the country, built in the 60s and reached its full flooded level in 1971. The reservoir only has an average about 13 meters in depth, which means the more elevated sections of the lake area created hundreds of shallow reservoir islands. The whole country runs on rivers, though, and flanked on the sides of the Suriname River are the Tapanahani in the east, the Kopanam to the west, and on the borders, the Maroni and the Corentine, the longest shared river of the country with Guyana. These are the 5 powerhouse rivers of Suriname. The only section of Suriname that seems to have a stark contrast to the otherwise overbearing green forest format would be the Sipaliwini Savanna Nature Reserve in the south, where the landscape suddenly turns into a somewhat arid grassy hill domain, seldom explored, and continues into Brazil's Tumukumake Mountains National Park.
Now, you would think, with lots of trees and forests, Suriname would be loaded with cropland. Well, not really. See, only about 1% of the land is arable, and only about half of that 1% is cultivated. Yeah, just because you got a lot of trees doesn't mean you have to have a lot of farms. Also, random fact.
There was this one time
Story time,
where
let's
this
go.
helicopter flew into the forest, but it crashed, and they actually never found the helicopter again because the forest is so super dense. The moment you get lost, you will probably never be found again.
Welcome
In terms
to
of
the
land
Amazon.
exploitation, though, Suriname actually prefers to take the mineral route instead of the agricultural one. To this day, aluminum in the form of bauxite and gold are the largest export products of Suriname. Otherwise, Suriname has one more trick up their sleeves. They have been able to successfully extract oil from their offshore deposits, all produced by the state-owned company Staatsolie. I think I pronounced that right. I don't know. Also, random fact, there are currently no patent laws in Suriname. So if you are in Suriname, try not to be all like,
I just had such a great idea, but I can't patent it.
Anyhow, one thing Suriname doesn't have to patent are their unique endemic animal species. And with that, here's Gary Harlow to explain.
Gary Harlow here. He's got a hat. As the most forested nation on Earth, obviously you're going to get an influx of wildlife. Today, there are nearly 200 mammal species, nearly 300 reptiles and amphibians, over 700 birds, like the national animal, the lesser kiskadee. Nice. The country has 16 protected areas and reserves, taking up about an eighth of the entire country's landmass. Many new species are being discovered by scientists every year, like the blue poison dark frog in the South Sipaliwini Nature Reserve. And speaking of amphibians, we can't let you get away from an episode about Suriname without talking about the Suriname toad. Viewer discretion advised. This flat bastard has one of Mother Nature's most...
My script writing.
This flat bastard has one of Mother Nature's most strangest ways of being a mother in nature. The toads lay their eggs on their backs, which then fuse in with mother's skin. And from there, the eggs hatch and the fully formed babies pop out like bursting pimples from mommy's spine, leaving a pockety scarred backside resembling a honeycomb from hell. And speaking of babies,
no,
I got one of my
goosebumps,
own.
the
Here's a
chills.
photo to prove it. It's real. Minnie Harlow.
He's a dad!
He's a dad. He's a dad.
Thank you, Gary, and
Yeah.
congrats on your offspring. Suriname's culture is similar to that of the Caribbean, in which most people have gardens in their
Oh
homes
no,
and
now
have
you
lots of
ruined it.
fruits and produce. And with that, why don't we let Surinamese geography Lakeisha explain a little bit more about the food. Take it away.
So Suriname is a huge melting pot of different cuisines from all over the world. A dish, however, that we do find regularly in almost every single household is brown beans and rice. Some other notable dishes include piprewatra, which is a spicy
Amerindian.
soup, cassava bread, which is traditional to the Maroons, and herheri. These are often served with surhoed, which is pickled vegetables. Some snacks include bara, a savory
Bara.
fried Indian
Bara,
snack,
bara.
boyo, a cassava and coconut cake, kiksi, which
Cassava.
is
Why does it
a
sound like
rum
Portuguese?
spice cake, and maicena cookies, which are cornstarch cookies with sprinkles on top.
Cornstarch.
Drinks include dawit, which is
Mm.
a rose chendal drink, kasiri, made from cassava by the Amerindians in Suriname, and Marienburg rum, which is a Surinamese rum which can be up to 90%, which is crazy.
I really gotta go now.
Thanks,
Oh,
Lakeisha.
no.
Oh yeah, and remember on Fan Friday, Geography Mathis sent me this stuff, Surinamese egg cake mix. I literally saved it for this episode, and I'm gonna make it right now.
That tells me it's gonna. Okay, never mind.
Good food. Good
I
people.
thought something bad was
Well,
gonna
anyway, let's
happen.
move on to the next segment: the people of Suriname. Go.
Democrat.
All right, you guys know this is my favorite part of the episode. Not gonna lie.
Waving
In
the flag.
Suriname, you might
That's his favorite
occasionally hear the
part.
phrase "eenheid en verscheidenheid." Sorry, my Dutch is terrible. Like
Yeah,
your neighbor Guyana,
but
the entire country is essentially a
I
hodgepodge
can't say anything
of
on that
ethnic
one 'cause
communities
I'd
which have their
probably
own
be
distinct
terrible.
backstories. We'll get to that
Hey,
in a second,
is
but
that
first,
the world?
congrats.
Is that the
country of
Gold Cup?
Suriname has almost about
That is the
600,000
Gold
people,
Cup
and it is the
in
least
Exploria
populated country in
Stadium.
South America. From there, the societal breakup gets a little interesting. The
Why
largest
did I
groups
say
of
World
people
Cup?
are
I'm
the
such an
Afro-Surinamese, making up about 38% of the nation. However, within this group, there are two divisions: the Maroons at about 22%, and the Creoles at about 60%. From there, the next largest community would be the Indo-Surinamese, taking up somewhere around 27% of the population, followed by the Javan Surinamese at about 14%. Amerindian natives make up about 4%. After that, the Chinese make up about 2%.
Why is it
Europeans at about
Chinese
1%.
and
And the remainder of the
Europeans?
population is made up mostly of multiracial or other groups around the world, including the Lebanese, mostly Maronite, and even a small but surviving population of about 200 Jews.
They use the
Jews.
Surinamese dollar as their currency. They use the types C and F plug outlets. And with Guyana, they are one of the only two countries in South America that drive on the left side of the road.
What is
Left
wrong with
side?
you?
That will never be a thing. Anyway, so as you can tell, Suriname is very mixed.
Why?
And we have a lot to break
This is
down. First, the
confusing.
language. Dutch is the sole official language of the country, as it was a former Dutch colony. And in addition, the vast majority of the population also speaks Suriname Tongo, which is an English-based Creole. It is the most widely used lingua franca amongst all the communities, and it is used interchangeably with Dutch in daily life. Even the national anthem is shared, half Dutch, half Suriname Tongo. And then it gets even more complicated because there are about 14 locally recognized languages used amongst the various ethnic groups. You go to Suriname, you'll see a lot of code switching. On top of that, much of the country can communicate in English as well. Many learn it as a third language. So how did all of this manifest? Well, long story short, and actually it's
Europeans.
not going to be a long story short. Pay attention to all this.
Europeans.
Let's start with the Afro-Surinamese.
Wait, what?
Why are they divided into two? Well,
Oh,
basically
no.
during the Atlantic slave trade years,
Oh,
many
yeah, okay,
Africans
no,
were brought into Suriname. Within
European.
that time, many of them escaped the plantations that they were forced to work on into the
European.
rainforest. And through ethnogenesis, that's when a new ethnic group is created, they created their own tribes and societies. These people are known as the Maroons. The most fascinating thing is that even after 4 centuries, their languages still maintain intelligible roots to West African origins. There's actually a documentary called Suriname Meets Ghana, in which a Ghanaian man visits a Maroon village in Suriname and is able to communicate with them using the Akan language. It's quite trippy, check it out. On that note, the
Yeah.
Creoles are descended from the ones that didn't escape or the ones that mixed with Europeans and had biracial children. This community became more Dutchified, and they developed their own community completely different from the Maroons, despite both being considered black. Fast forward to the late 1800s, slavery was abolished, which meant that the Dutch brought in indentured servants from Indonesia and India and a bit from China as well. And
okay, that explains why.
The Chinese community is kind of divided into old school versus fobs. Basically, they came in three separate waves. A lot of quotes. The originals brought in from the 1800s and the 1940s, mostly Hakka and Cantonese in origin. Then the third wave of Chinese immigrants came in the 90s and so on, mostly Mandarin speaking. This group within the Chinese community is not as rooted as the old school class. Oh, and the Jews, of course, we almost forgot them. Suriname actually has the first Jewish settlement in the Americas, brought over by the British at Marshall Creek Settlement in 1639. Over the years and after the war times, most of them left, and today there are less than 200 people that claim Judaism as their religion in most recent censuses, whatever the plural is. Nonetheless, the legacy lives on, and today you can even see the Jewish temple in Paramaribo peacefully next to the mosque. They even share the same parking lot. On that note, religion. Christianity is the largest religion adhered to from people of all communities at just under half the country at about 48%. After that, the second largest religion, mostly held by the Indo-Surinamese, is Hinduism. Islam, mostly from the Javanese.
So weird, Hinduism in South America.
And the rest are other beliefs, mostly indigenous or unaffiliated. Now, there's a line in the national anthem that kind of signifies the social dynamic.
I thought his camera just got
Wherever our
faded out.
ancestors come from, we are the ones that have to build and improve Suriname. It wasn't always peaches and cream getting to that point, though. Peaches and cream, I never say that. Anyway, the point, it wasn't always easy. After independence, things got a little messy, and it all centered around a weird political dance between these two people, Desi Bouterse and Robert Brunswick. Bouterse led a military coup that took over the country in 1980, and then it was like, hey, Desi, man, I've been your bodyguard for, since the beginning. Can I get a raise?
No!
Well, can we at least talk about the rights of the Maroons, my people?
No!
Okay, well, then I hate you now. This led to Bouterse committing massacres and Brunswick hijacking the Apobaka Dam and threatening to flood Paramaribo if Bouterse refused to negotiate. During this time, many people fled Suriname, mostly migrating to the Netherlands or the Dutch Caribbean. Long story short, after the war settled, things cooled off, but then in 2010, it was like,
hey, Brunswick, somehow I managed to make the largest political party in Suriname, but I only have 23 seats in parliament, and I need 26 or more. I know we hated each other in the 80s, but how about we get past that and cooperate? Because this time, with your 7 seats,
Although this may seem weird on the surface to some of the viewers because there's a lot of contextual backstory from the past 2 decades that led up to this moment that we don't have time to explain, I'll just say, yes, let's cooperate. And that's how miraculously Bouterse became president again, twice, even though he had massacre convictions and an ongoing drug trafficking scandal with an over 20-year sentence from Europol should he ever step foot in Europe to enact an arrest warrant. Nonetheless, president. Suriname's fault. In any case, that's a lot of
Europol. If Europol's after you, man.
Despite all the confusing political upheaval, the people of Suriname still
God bless you.
respect and coexist amongst each other pretty well. And one thing that definitely unites them is sports. Usually Art fills in for this part, for the sports part, but he's on vacation with his family. Why not? You left your dog here, man. Fun fact, this guy once took a massive diarrhea on Keith. True fact.
Man.
So how about we just have our favorite Serbian come on in, Ivan, you remember him.
The go-to.
You're going to have to be,
okay, we're doing...
You're going to have to be Art today.
What do you think?
All right, take care.
Does that work? What do you think? Do I look like your dad? So in Suriname, recreation is, of course, a big part of life. Everyone in Suriname will hail swimmer Anthony Nesty. Well, Suriname's first ever and so far only Olympic medalist. He was also the first black swimmer to ever win a gold medal at the Olympics, and he even went on to coach the U.S. Olympic swim team at the Tokyo Olympics. I mean, this guy's freaking amazing. Otherwise, the Surinamese will also probably mention
Let's go.
Freeze Day, winner in multiple regional competitions like Central American and Caribbean Games, and even a silver in the World Championship. She is also the first, and to this day, the only sports person from Suriname to compete at 5 Olympics. For the #1 sport, though, all Surinamese will probably agree, soccer, or we'll say football. The funny thing is many players of Surinamese origin, like these guys, do really well. For the Netherlands, during conflict years, many of their players
Virgil van
The
Dijk.
interesting thing, though, is that for the longest
saw the
time,
Liverpool man.
Suriname was strict and would not allow Dutch athletes to compete for Suriname, regardless of their background. Rude. That rule has just changed, though. As of 2019, the Suriname Football Association would allow sports passports for Dutch citizens of Surinamese descent to play on their national team and represent Suriname. And they
You're a bit
are
late
bad
on that
same
one, man.
results, folks.
You're
But
a bit
anyway,
late on that
those are
one.
probably the biggest sports
You
highlights.
lost some
And
key
with that,
players.
we bring it back to you, Barbs.
Thank you, Yvonne. I mean, they also kind of do a little bit of cricket. They just joined the International Cricket Committee in 2002. But it was just kind of like, you know, hey, Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean are doing it, so I should too. Their team's not that good yet. Moving on. Suriname, as you can see, is loaded with a colorful society.
Wait until you get to
People.
the
To explain a
U.S.
little bit
I'm
more on
sure
the
they're a
Surinamese
good
culture,
team.
Here's Hannah with Random Hannah's culture segment.
Suriname, I am here. Yes, sir, I am. Get it? It's a pun. Ah! So with Suriname, each of the major communities has their own set of unique traditions and customs. For example, Maroon societies are divided into Los or clans, and Bs or lineages, each based on matrilineal ancestors. At the head of the Maroon community sits the chief or grandman or gama. He is appointed for life by his
Grandman.
further recognized and sworn in by the Surinamese government. Indo-Surinamese people are kind of like a pan-North Indian fusion community, and their language is still intelligible to many Indians in India today. Even the current president, an Indo-Surinamese, took his oath on the Vedas while speaking ancient Sanskrit. They celebrate typical Hindu festivals that everyone gets involved in, Indian or not. The Javan Surinamese community is probably the best at maintaining their mother tongue. The sad thing, though, is that today the language is dying. In the 70s, Suriname lost somewhere around 20 to 25,000 Javan people that migrated to the Netherlands, which was a significant portion of the community. Today, about 2/3 of them are Muslim, making it the highest percentage of Muslims per country in all the Americas. And of course, the native indigenous Surinamese community is very noticeable. There are 8 tribes, the largest being the Kalina and Lokono. They are basically cousins of the Arawak and Carib peoples. We discussed about these people in past episodes. You know, the ones that migrated to the Caribbean islands. Those guys. A lot of these people still practice traditional customs. For example, the Kalina take funerals very seriously with a ritual called epeketono. There's body paint, music, and they burn the deceased's belongings. Some of the Lokono people have rite of passage customs for boys and girls, and tobacco is considered a sacred plant, never smoked for recreational purposes, but for prayers. And speaking of festivals, the country has lots of them that everyone participates in. You have the Biggie Biggie Broki Waka, the ABD Festival, Hekikoti, or Abolition of Slavery Day,
whatever
Independence
she
Day,
said.
and the largest one of the year probably being the New Year's Eve. Oh, and speaking of arts and festivals, Suriname actually only has one cinema in all the country. If you want to learn more about Suriname's film industry, go watch the Filmography Now episode. I started a spin-off channel. We do this every time. Hey, and with that, we have no choice but to go. Are you sure, Paul? We have no choice. Keith's segment. Here you go, people.
He actually lives here now.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, that's actually right. I live here in this hood. By the way, I love Emperor. They're a great band. This is my commentary. Don't sue. Anyway, music in Suriname. Basically, the 4 largest ethnicities have their own musical genres. For the Creoles, you have Guiana, Kaseko, and Kabola. Within these styles, there's lots of cool vocals and percussion. For the Indo-Surinamese, they like to play chutney, even though it originated in Trinidad, and Baitak Ghana. It's like a Caribbean Indian fusion genre with keyboards and the dolak drum. For the Javanese community, pop Java is very popular. Shocker. And if you're lucky, you'll see a gamelan orchestra. And finally, the Maroons. They prefer a more traditional tribal style of music, almost exclusively using percussion as the sole instrument. They have styles from Awasa, which is like a fast footwork dancing style, to Seketi, which is a female harmonized vocal style with tons of claps. Fun fact, every 2 years there is a huge popular music festival called Suripop. It's basically a competition in which the winner is the composer, not the singer, which I actually think is correct. It is broadcast nationwide and the winner gets a trophy and or a cash money prize. Over the years, so many popular artists or groups, either from Suriname or Surinamese, have popped up like these guys. Comment below and let us know what you think. Anyways, my name's Keith. That's it for me. I love y'all. Goodbye.
Woo! Thank you, Keith. So there's so much to Suriname. You got the music, the culture, the people. So the only question left is, who does Suriname hang out with? Let's find out in Friends of Suriname. Now, the country is quite diverse, but how does that diversity play into the way how they interact with the rest of the diverse world?
For one, Suriname is actually heavily tied in with Switzerland and Liechtenstein, as they are both top exporters in Europe, especially in the gold sector. France has an embassy in Suriname and has been cooperating with Suriname for a long time due to their border with the overseas territory of French Guiana. Nonetheless, the European country they probably have the closest ties to would probably be the Netherlands. As one of the three countries of the Dutch language union that South Africa and Namibia refused to join despite speaking Afrikaans, they are closely tied both linguistically and relationally. Many people from each country has family in the other. They visit and study abroad in each other's nations, but mostly Surinamese to the Netherlands, and much of their economy comes from the Dutch, and overall they get each other. Indonesia, India, and China are kind of like the distant ancestors saying, hey, diaspora, we still love you and want you to hold on to your roots. Each of these countries also has an embassy in Paramaribo, which offer community classes in everything from language, music, cooking, and traditional dance, all to encourage the Indo-Javan and Chinese Surinamese community to keep in touch with their roots. Nonetheless, their closest inner core group of friends would have to be the Caribbean nations, as they are a member of CARICOM. It depends on who you ask, but many Surinamese people I have talked to have said within the Caribbean, Guyana and Trinidad are very close. All three have very similar backstories and demographical makeups, including Indian and African diaspora communities. Each one has at some point dealt with the same struggles and obstacles that led to their independence. They love each other's music, food, many intermarry between these three, and they overall understand each other pretty well. Nonetheless, if we want to get really technical, the Dutch Antilles would probably be the closest friends they have, specifically the ABC Islands. The constituent countries of Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, although technically part of the Netherlands, these three islands have the closest connection to Suriname. Obviously, as Dutch-speaking entities, not only do they relate linguistically, but they share a deep cultural bond and even usually act as hubs for most international flights entering into Suriname. These guys are kind of like the last hanging remnants of anything Dutch-speaking in the Americas, so they kind of have to stick together and support each other. Oh yeah, and also St. Eustatius, St. Martin, and Saba. Jeez, those three are so small and secluded. Can't forget them, though.
All right, and in conclusion, I asked some of you guys what you would say to conclude this episode. Here's some of the stuff you guys said.
I do really feel this connection with my African heritage, but also with my Asian heritage, because my mom is the Creole, my dad is the Japanese. The nice thing about Suriname is actually that it's still pure and still a lot of rainforest and still a lot of nature, and it still has this easygoing, relaxing life culture.
So I'm very proud to say that I'm from Suriname. I like watching people's reactions when I tell them that. There is so much racial and religious diversity.
What does that mean?
And I think that's what makes Suriname so very interesting.
Thanks, man.
I think it shows, in a way, humanity's greatness, because I think all the different cultures have their own wisdoms and their own knowledge or views of life. Cycling home in the cold Dutch weather, and all I was thinking about was I want to go home and just be warm.
I'm grateful to be a Surinamese, with all the blessings as well that this country comes with. We don't have volcano eruptions or big earthquakes, so that's something to be grateful of. 5 different ethnic groups just united as one.
It doesn't matter where in the world we go, we will always call Suriname our home.
In a way, I guess Suriname really is the hidden emerald gem.
Yeah, let's go Suriname.
It always kind of maintains its united yet unique fusion identity with grace and pride. Really wish I could have visited this country for this episode. Sorry I couldn't. Maybe sometime after upload I will. But in the meantime, hope you're doing well, Suriname. And with that, stay tuned. Sweden is coming up next.
Nah, PewDiePie. So I don't know. PewDiePie just came in my head when I thought of Sweden. Like, not even like the Swedish Empire, not even like the Swedish Nordish United Empire. Not that. Just PewDiePie. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Please like, subscribe. If you don't, I cry. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be it. Leave your suggestions for a next Geography Now video on next Wednesday. Actually, not next Wednesday, but on every Wednesday. So yeah, guys, it could be it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good night.